What's happening, guys? Gene Campbell here. So, a couple of people have asked me about this, and we've made a few comments online. So, I wanted to do just a quick video. We run the Unlimited with the 24 volt EPS Newport vessel motor on our kayak here. And with that comes a throttle control assembly. Most people take that throttle control and they mount it track mounted on say the right side or whatever, I think is how most I've seen do it. But for us, that just didn't work. The reason it didn't work was, number one, I fish, if you will, I reel left-handed. And so therefore, constantly taking my hand off the fishing rod to move over to the throttle and start messing with it was an annoyance. So I wanted to move it to the left side so that I could use just left hand, where I could take my hand off the reel, still maintaining contact with my bait with the fishing rod, but I could still then adjust with my left hand. I could adjust throttle. After I did that, it started getting in the way because I have a tendency, when I use my Fusion 360 swivel seat, I tend to swivel to the left more times than not. It's easier for me to reach behind me that way, to swivel that way. Swiveling to the right just isn't as fluid. So just learning these things about myself. So what was happening was the throttle assembly was getting in the way of everything on the left side. My leg was hitting into it constantly. Plus, again, I didn't like how low it was either. So what we come up with here is, I thought, you know what, this 360 Fusion seat, it swivels around. What would be awesome is to have the throttle actually mounted to the seat itself. Then I just have to pay attention to when I swing around, as long as the throttle doesn't bang into anything. So what we come up with is the following, and I'll show you kind of what we've done here. All right, so what I ended up doing was getting just a couple modifications that we did with here. Again, I apologize for the dirtiness of the Unlimited here. She has been in the garage for a few weeks. We've been out of town. I've been under the weather and just haven't given it much attention. So I apologize for the dirt and such. But nevertheless, you'll be able to see what we've got going here. I've seen a lot of guys actually mount these throttles, some sort of a DIY, mount right to these side pieces here, which is a pretty cool idea. For me, I wanted it a little bit more forward. So what I actually did, and I'll show you on this side first. This is straight from factory. That is basically the bolt that is there. And as you can see up underneath, maybe you can see that might have been a failed attempt, but nevertheless, it's just a it looks like a hex head basically screw that's holding this strap on. This strap is basically an adjustable strap on the Fusion seat that you can use to kind of set your exact seat height on what is most comfortable for you in there. So what I did was I actually took that screw out. Upon doing so, I did have to bore that hole out and make it a little bit bigger. So if I want to remove this again, I'm probably going to have to go with a larger bolt in here to keep this pinned and not wobbling around in there. So pre-warning on that. Because I needed that to be able to fit the T-bolt that normally would go into a rail mount here. That's what we actually used here, because all I did was get that ball, 1-inch ball from Ram that had with the rail assembly, and I just put it through the back there, just through its natural design. It'll basically grab tension on there so you can get a hold of this. The other piece that I will suggest, and I've done this by trial and error, you'll notice the rubber grommet I have up against the metal with the vinyl strap in between that and the ball. The reason for that is if you do it any other way and you leave that vinyl on this metal, it's going to slide around on you. This strap will move and in effect sit there and move the ball on your throttle, basically move it around. We had that happen to us. It's not a huge deal, but it was just enough of an annoyance that I didn't want it anymore. So we changed Pardon the dump truck coming by here. So we changed the location of the rubber grommet that comes with the ram ball, 1-inch ball there. Put it to the inside there with the knobs facing out, and that creates enough tension now that this doesn't swivel around on us anymore, and this remains put. I did get a 1-inch ball, another attachment to the back plate here. We'll talk about that here in a second on what modifications I had to do to that universal mount. The other thing that I picked up, this is from Ram. It's an articulating Ram clamp here. This swivels right here in the center so that you can adjust this. However, I've got mine set exactly ergonomically set up so it's at a perfect angle where I can read my display unit here. And I've got it set up for the perfect height. Now, if I do want to, like, let's say I have a net sitting in here and I want to get access, I'm going to hit that net, or if there's a pole sitting in there, I'm going to hit that. So I can easily basically loosen one of these here and basically move this thing out of the way. Should I need to, or I can tuck it in, whatever I want to do. That's one of the reasons I keep the handles facing upward here. It just makes it a lot easier for me to get to them. The modifications on the back. This is the universal plate that basically this normally comes attached here right to the inside here. I use this universal plate, drilled a couple pilot holes here that I needed to match up, and then also drilled a couple more pilot holes here on these guys. If I were to do anything else, I'd probably put some Loctite on these guys right here, but they are cinched up pretty darn tight. So I just bored out on the other side, just a small indentation. Let me see, I think I have, yeah, anyway, yeah, I just did basically a small indentation piece here so that the screws laid flat on this, so that the throttle piece itself can actually lay flat up against that board. So, and that's how I was able to actually mount these. It took just a little bit of time, nothing major, but it is a huge difference. This allows me to run along the shoreline as I normally do with this 24 volt EPS system. I'll use it for the speed of getting to where I want to get to. I think it's a 60-pound thrust. I mean, it's a phenomenal motor. But then I'll also use it for when I'm trolling down a bank. I'll set that throttle piece at say 10%, depending on how fast or what the wind's doing, what the current's doing. I can set it around 10% and it'll just cruise nice and easy. I have this coupled with the Nucanoe foot steer that's in here. So this literally is about as close as I can get right now with this setup to hands-free. Something a little more custom to the bass boat behind me that we've been getting all cleaned up here and ready to get on the market. That's really what we've been aiming for, is how do I get as close to that as possible. I've been in a bass boat for a lot of years, and I'm trying to keep my fishing style very similar to that in regards to the mechanics of it, if you will. That way it'll keep it nice and comfy for me and I can stay focused on the fishing piece. We've got a few plans and ideas that for one of the other yaks that we're going to be working on here. But at any rate, so yeah, that's basically what we did with the throttle piece there. Hopefully that's helpful to some of you guys. If you have any questions on that, like I said, it's not exactly extremely pretty. But right now, this year is all about functionality and just learning this stuff and doing the best that we can with what we have. So, and working our way through this. So, if any questions, any comments, anything like that, drop them in the comment section down below. Hit us up on the DM. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. That is a huge help for us here at the YouTube channel. We're growing in leaps and bounds, but we need to grow bigger. We're about 130 subscribers right now, somewhere in that ballpark. We want to get to that 1,000 mark. That's our first goal by the end of the year, is to try to get up there. So make sure to hit the subscribe, give us a follow, give us a comment, hit the like button if you're finding the content helpful. Anything you'd like us to talk about elsewhere, any comments to go with this, throw it down there, man. As always, guys, tight lines, be safe.